Mitchell Tall. Real estate.
Ooh yeah, little real estate. We want more.
We've done it. One take.
I'm Ilana Razbash, and this is Radio Architecture.
Good evening from beautiful Bunurong country. We are broadcasting to you live from deep in the Karam Karam on unceded Eastern Kulin Nation land. If you'd like to join the conversation tonight, as always, please text us on 0493 213 831, and we'd love to have your questions and your thoughts with us tonight in the studio as well. My guest and conversation partner this evening is multidisciplinary artist Ilan, who trained and practiced as an architect before moving to Australia in 2005 to join RMIT's Industrial Design Masters program. In 2010, he established Ilan Design Studio, a product design practice located in Melbourne, specialising in the design and production of bespoke luminaires and large-scale light-based installations. Interested in the experimental quality of light and its potential for positive psychological and emotional effect, Ilan explores the colours of the visible spectrum to develop works with playful, interactive and automated elements. His installations and work have been presented at the Melbourne Design Fair, Melbourne Design Week, which included Departures in 2017, Decoding Design in 2018, and in 2020, Light and Life, as well as Wisdom of Objects in 2021, Reflections in 22, and Fragile in 2023, Globe Light, Melbourne, and his large-scale commissions include an interactive light sculpture, Aura, for the National Gallery of Victoria's Triennial in 2020. An interactive lighting installation, 39 Steps, for the Justin Art House Museum in Melbourne, a backdrop lighting installation, Shimmering Lights, for the Save the Children Gala in New York in 2016, and a 13-metre multi-tiered light installation, Deco Grandeur, for the Royal Bank Chambers in Melbourne in 2015, as well as a variety of bespoke luminaires for high-end hotels and private residences across the globe. Ilana, welcome to the program.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So glad to have you on. And you're actually the first light designer that I've had on the program.
Cool.
Not lighting, light.
I bring the light. I'm not a lighting designer. I design lights, or I work with light as my medium, basically. The way I like to refer to it these days.
Fantastic. You know, you're a listener to the show, so you do know my first question. And I'm just wondering, what is your earliest memory of a building or place?
That is related to what I do these days, yeah? That's
your earliest memory.
Yeah, I always like to talk about or to tell the story of, I think I was maybe around 4 or something along those lines. And the memory of me and my brother playing with Lego, and which carried me, throughout my life. That memory of, but I remember that we always used to argue because I used to build houses constantly, just houses, and he used to build machines and spaceships and all that stuff. So that's probably one of those fun memories that I like to go back to and recall. Yeah.
Why was it houses specifically?
It's a very good question. It's a very good question. I don't think I've got an answer. It's nothing to do with the fact that I didn't have a house or something that I was missing in my life, because we had a pretty beautiful home. I remember it was always like Mom was always inspired by magazines and stuff. So in the house that where we lived always looked that way, and both of them both my parents were makers in some way, more of a hobby, but they both had right hands. So, and I think that's how, what influenced me. And
It's very common to go after Lego or that first experience. Most people who pick architecture as a career, which was your first one,
Yeah.
always tinkering with Lego, always drawing, always a passion and interest.
Nowadays I understand it better, but because I understand myself better and my creative process and creative existence and the way I see the world and the way I experience and the way I think, which is in 3D. And I guess that's probably why the Lego just let me do it. So going back to your question, why houses? I'm really unsure, but I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed, creating different, literally floor plans, and in many ways I remember everywhere we lived, I always built, whether it was an apartment or the house. When my parents built up a house, and so I remember building the house that they did. I didn't know much. I didn't know anything about architecture. They made so many mistakes. God help me, but again, it was just a very naive, childlike play. But just the fact that it was always Lego, always houses, and when you get to that place, to the time in your life when you need to decide, okay, there's going to be uni and there's going to be this, and what you're going to study, and that's somewhere in high school that I needed to, get ready for that. Get your grades in line, and I knew it's going to be architecture. I always knew that. I knew I'm going to study architecture, and to get into architecture, you need, pretty high scores with everything, and you have to go. You have to do mathematics and physics and chemistry in high school, to get ahead. And
Wow, it's certainly not like that here in Australia anymore.
that everything's changed since then. Yeah, that was like a million years ago. Listeners don't see the grey hair, but there's a lot. So I always knew that that's going to be what I'm going to study, and was excited about that. And after the military service, I had a bit of a back and forth between a few unis to understand, but eventually studied architecture, and probably the best school that I can imagine, because it was very different. So there are 3 universities that have the program, the architecture degree, and each one of them is very different. The way they
Where did you study?
Tel Aviv University,
Huge Bauhaus influence, huge modernism
the city
influence,
itself,
city of
but
architecture.
specific that was the newest program. I was the first from the first batch of students that studied architecture in Tel Aviv University. So, but they, unlike Technion in Haifa or Bezalel in Jerusalem, Tel Aviv saw the architect as a Renaissance man, a person that needs to understand and to know more than a floor plan or drawings or every aspect of life. And 5 years of studying, name a subject, I've studied it.
Wow.
Literally.
That's almost like the Bauhaus school influence.
In many ways, yes. Interestingly, but I remember during those 5 years, there were times that why do we ask ourselves, or we ask each other, why do I need this? I don't care about that. How's that's going to help me? Then one day, you finish your studies, you go out to the market, and then you come across things, and I know what's that about, or I've got some understanding, or it's not like I've never heard that before. Okay, I've heard that term, I've got some understanding what it is. I can have a discussion about it. I can, so suddenly you understand why it's so important to know all those things or to touch all those things in your life. And anywhere from history of art, history of architecture, chemistry, we studied in uni. Sociology, psychology, urbanism, literally every aspect.
Your education really recognized the generalist nature of the profession.
Correct. And but when you think about it, okay, so there's expectation from architects. Doesn't matter where you studied or what
Is industrial design part of that as well? Part of those broad subjects?
That brings to another completely subject, but interestingly enough, industrial design is design. Yeah, it's basically design. Within architecture, I didn't coin it, but architecture is the mother of all arts. Been said, for a reason. It encompasses so many aspects. And it is a broad subject, and industrial design is part of it. Yes, so a tap, is industrial. Any piece of furniture is industrial design when you think about those things. And those things inform architecture. Architecture inform those objects as well at the same time. Yeah.
The philosophy of particular Alvar Aalto was designed down to the last doorknob.
Slipped my mind.
It's the holistic detail consideration.
Yes.
Of the project.
Yes. Specifically mid-century architects, you can see that a lot of them designed everything. From the actual architecture, the space, the building, down to the door handle, so which is exciting, or pieces of furniture as well. So very common, and even nowadays, I think most architects, give it a go in designing, objects, whether it's for their projects or beyond. It's the language of design, so that we enjoy so much.
Do you miss practicing as an architect?
No.
Oh, say why?
The reason I decided to leave architecture, I think it was many years ago, but it was, I remember putting it in percentage. It was the creative percentage, we spot less than 10%, with the other 90 or more sometime of the grey dull work of documenting. And I didn't enjoy it. So I wanted more of the 10% and less of the rest, which happens over time, clearly, as you become more senior. So you do less and less of that. So that was one of the reasons that I decided. Another reason is that, just like I explained before, I gave it a go and designed other things. I designed a light for a restaurant. I was designing a restaurant, and there was an 8-meter long bar, and I needed some sort of light feature above the bar. And I couldn't find anything that I like, and so I said, okay. And I remember the client, she was all about feng shui. It was a Japanese restaurant, and she, regardless, nothing to do with specifically the 8-meter bar, she said that she needs a chime in the space. And it was cutting edge, super contemporary, very sleek, very minimal. Where am I going to put a chime here?
A chime is in like a bell or a wind chime.
A wind chime. Yeah. Again, part of a feng shui element. She also wanted crystals, but I got away with it because I gave her the crystals in the curtains, so that was fine. For the reflection, for the wall, for the light reflections and play. But specifically with the chime, the wind chime specifically, where are you going to put it? Even if I'm going to make my own. So I don't remember the process. It was many years ago, but eventually I came up with this idea and designed a chandelier that went 8-meter long and was basically type of a chime, a wind chime. And that was the first slide I've ever designed. And for years and years and years, it was my bestseller.
First light, and it was 8 meters long. You went straight to the big size.
Interestingly enough, it's a modular design, which is a very interesting concept as it is. Modularity and adjustability and tailoring solutions. But specifically this piece, it started as singular elements that ran over 8 meters, or basically aluminium tubes that were perforated, and I also made sure that the aircon unit will blow air onto it, so there's constant movement, and there's a bit of a chime sound as well. You can even go to my website and you can still see that light. It's still existing in part of the collection. And in many ways, that specific piece named Rain, which was the same name in Hebrew, by the way, paved my way, gave me that great start for the business, or for here in Australia, when I finished my master's and opened the business. Nowadays, we don't sell much of it anymore, just because of copies, because it's been copied everywhere. So,
how was that journey and transition into industrial design and education in Australia for you?
I came here to study. Yeah, that was the goal. I didn't have any other ideas of staying or whatnot. So it was come do your masters, then you decide. I remember saying, first semester, talk to me. I'll do a 1 semester. At the end of it, we'll see. And I literally came with a backpack, nothing more. Yeah. So I did 1 semester in Monash University, and I left to RMIT. And I was basically headhunted. So RMIT, lured me in, and I did. And I enjoyed it very much. I spent days in the library, which is my favorite thing to do, to be amongst books. And I was a bit surprised because it was by coursework, so I needed to produce work designs for the program. But most of it was done on my own, in my own time, and so there was no frontal classes or anything like that, specifically because I came from architecture. The fact that I studied architecture ticked almost every box.
Every subject was credited.
Yeah, correct, exactly. Literally, every subject was credited. So, don't need any
Back
of that.
to your earlier point about sort of the mother of all art.
It's exactly that, yeah. And I remember my teacher in Tel Aviv always told us, finish here, it will open any door you want. Yeah, and they were right. Yeah, it did open many, many, many doors. Yeah.
Incredibly true. And how many amazing, talented masters and creatives who've studied architecture and had that as a foundation and went off into film, into Hollywood, into so many professions.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, it opens your mind. It's a fascinating profession.
What's one of the best lessons from your studies?
It's controversial, but I believe in it. Yeah, which is okay. I'm just gonna say it. We are service for architects. And again, that's the way I was educated. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
As a service provider, I hold the knowledge. You're my client or whoever it is. Yeah. And I need to help you pave the way or get to the point or build what you need for your life, because you're not me. And I live your life different than you. We all live differently. Yeah. From the little things that we do when we wake up in the morning till the last thing we do before we go to bed, or the way we go around the house. So the idea is to tailor solutions for people. Yeah. Which in many ways is problematic when you think about designers and their style. Yeah, you would go and choose a specific architect to do your house because of their style. Yeah, which is completely understandable. But style is one thing, and it's completely personal. Yeah, and subjective. And but the but what they tell of you, the actual, floor plan or proportions or what's where and what's lead to what within the space or the spaces, it's personal and needs to be tailored to the specific client, and that's got nothing to do with style. Yeah, you can beautify it, you can use different kinds of materials, but those type of things are crucial and needs to be addressed and tailored per person.
None of this is sounding controversial yet.
Yeah, because again, a lot of people go and choose designers or architects because of their aesthetics. Yeah? Oh, I love those houses that they've done, and then they take them, and then and you hear horrible stories all the time. Yeah.
Right, and then that's just not a personalized result.
Yes, correct, and that's in many ways issues. That's when you can afford it to take an architect and build your own house. But even when you think about, I drive around or walk around and you see those new developments or the new houses, and I'm looking at them, and I always think, I want to take the architects that designed this house and make him or her live there.
It wasn't an architect, certainly for those, unfortunately, in Australia.
It was architects. It was specifically projects that I know of, that I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yeah? And I know the architects and I know them. They need to live in it to see how it is, to see that they design it for humans to live in it. They need to feel how it is first. It's an aquarium.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
You see them a lot. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. Anyway, so...
It doesn't come across as something for the human condition, and buildings are for people.
But you see them
Architecture is
again
for
and
people.
again and again because they wanted a beautiful glass facade or whatnot, yeah? And they forgot that behind that beautiful glass facade of the building, which looks stunning, there's humans living. And then they put, and you see, and again, you walk around, people put weird stuff on the windows, and you from bed sheets to boxes to just to hide the 1.5 or 1.2 meter that they need for privacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you walk down the street and you look up and you see their undies or whatnot. Yeah. Anyway, so yes, it needs to be designed for humans. But so you were asking about the big stake that I have. So till this day, in my practice, I believe in tailoring solution. I believe giving people what they want or what they need or what they love. Yeah. So even now, my business is based on customization. Yeah. So, and I'm open for, so people ask, okay, we want this, but we want a different finish, different proportions. Sure.
How do you grapple with these questions of style in your practice?
So my practice is basically divided into two main areas. So there is the collection based, which is the in-house, which is my brainchild in many ways. But it's also open for interpretation and open for customization. Which we foster and let people as well. And the other part of it, which is completely the service part, which we just help interior designers, architects, and homeowners, or whoever the client is, to create things that they envision and help them bring them to light. Yeah, and that's where I put style or personal preferences aside completely, and bring again, knowledge and understanding of, okay, how do I help you make this? Whether I like it or not, it doesn't matter. It's not going to be in my place. I'm not going to look at it all day long. They're going to look at it all day long. That's what they want. Give it to them. Why not?
Yeah. I can see now how that's controversial.
Yes.
You fleshed it out.
Yes, but again, I still have my say in my collection, in my expression of what I love and what I in my aesthetics, basically. Yes, but that's just one thing. At the same time, I am a service provider as well. Yeah, and I enjoy it. And the discourse with people, the creative project, it's crazy things that probably would have never thought about, you know.
Yeah.
And you put a smile on people's faces, and at the end of the day, when you actually give them what they want, yeah.
That's a really amazing humility that also, as you describe, holds space for that possibility or these crazy projects, those unexpected conversations.
Well, thank you first, first and foremost. Yes, it does bring quirky things and interesting projects and interesting people as well. Really interesting people.
There's a couple of projects I do want to ask you about, but first, what's the craziest project experience? What's the most memorable? What's stayed with you that makes you laugh or smile?
Oh, there's so many. I'm just trying to find which one. I don't know. The first thing that comes to mind is a project I did during COVID for the 2020 triennial of the NGV. So apart from exhibiting one of my pieces that they commissioned there, they also asked me to help them with an installation that was created by an architect from Denmark and was shipped to Australia. It's called Cloud Formation. I don't know if you've been to the 2020 triennial.
Yeah, definitely.
It was the second one.
I love the triennials. I go every time.
Yeah, so I think that, I don't know, for me and a lot of people I spoke to, that was probably one of the best ones, the second one. And there was a room when you walked in, and there was this humongous fabric clouds suspend from the ceiling.
Yes.
And they were supposed to be illuminated. But I don't know, time, knowledge, whatnot, the architect from Denmark didn't do it. So delivered just the clouds with no lights. And the process and the work and the Zoom calls and the COVID and everything together and working with the NGV and that was probably that was the first time I got to see behind the scene. I got to see how the show is coming together with no public people, with no public within the space, and even get down to the basement and see those crazy endless corridors nobody gets to see.
Wow.
And see their offices and how they work and the staff of the NGV itself. Yeah. And going up and down scissor lifts and helping installing those lights and all that stuff. So it was a pretty amazing experience. Yeah. Yeah. That I'll never forget. Yeah. I really enjoyed. And working in inside the NGV on the from not from a visitor point of view, but
being on the side of the delivery, trying to make that magic happen.
Yes,
trying to light these clouds up.
Correct, and it looked fantastic eventually. So you were lucky. We had to design a light that can sit within those clouds, not burn them, illuminate properly, be able to sit, hang, hook, do many things because those clouds are completely irregular. Yeah. And the trick is that when you walk underneath them and you look up, you're not supposed to see anything. And you didn't see anything. So, it was. I remember when we brainstormed it, it was literally a stroke of genius in a second. We made spiders, literally spiders, out of metal. And the legs were bendable, so we can actually, bend the one leg and just hang it or find little nook and crannies within the clouds you can put them in, and yes.
That almost feels perfect. All the spiders in the cloud web.
It was literally spiders in the cloud, and we called them spiders, yeah, because they look like spiders. They literally look like spiders. And we're talking about like 20, 30 of those in each cloud, so there's a lot. And just imagine the amount of wires that you had to deal with as well. And all the clouds themselves were held by wires internally. So it was just crazy. Yeah. So, good memories of having my head inside the cloud.
Tell me about 29 steps.
39 steps.
39 steps.
39 steps is an interactive staircase that was commissioned by Leah and Charles Justin when they started the work on their one of their dreams is their own house museum that is located in Paran, here in Melbourne, and it's a ground floor, first floor, it's 2-story or 3, but depends how you look at it. Building. And so there's an entranceway, and then you start to walk up the stairs. There's a gallery space, and then you finish in the top floor, which is the resident. And every bit of it is open to the public. You have to book, of course. So Charles got in touch with me, and together with his daughter, Elisa Justin, she's the architect of the building. So together with her, so he had this idea of let's create something interesting in the staircase. And so we basically, it was very early stages, which doesn't happen a lot. Yeah. We had to, and it was smart because there was so many, kilometers of cables going into the staircase, the way we designed it. So basically there are 39 steps, and that came from a Hitchcock movie. It's also, I think, a famous book as well. That was, Charles' obsession. So he wanted 39 steps. They made it 39 steps. And so basically each riser is almost like an LED screen. So there's an LED panel behind it. There's the acrylic diffuser, acrylic face in front of it, and it's all programmed. And there's almost an infinity amount of program because it's a smart system that is able to learn, that don't repeat itself, etc., etc. And so as you walk up the stairs, you basically trigger it. There's few line breakers, kind of infrared type of thing, but they're invisible. And I think there's 4 of them on the staircase. And you every time you pass one, the whole staircase changes. The whole light show changes. And there's no 2 shows that are alike. You can anyway. There's different ways. Very smart
Is this
system.
accessible to the public?
Yes.
So if our listeners can go and visit the Justin Art House Museum of Paran and go and experience the staircase magic for themselves.
Yes.
Sounds incredible. I've actually not been there, so I'll have to put
I
that
would
on my
highly
to-do
recommend.
list.
I go there a lot. Sorry, because apart from the shows that they have, and the shows are always from their own collection, so they exhibit the art that they collected or they collect, and they also have lectures. I think it's every few months. There's a lecture. They invite architects. They invite different, curators, collectors, musicians, and they have a very interesting series of talks, basically.
We're so blessed in Melbourne. So many
We
choices, so much opportunity. We moved on, and I wanted to ask, what is it that made you stay in the end? How quickly were you able to start your design studio, and what kept you in Melbourne?
It was literally after one semester, I knew I fell in love with the place. I completely fell in love with Melbourne after one semester. After realizing, okay, this is heaven. It's beautiful. It's easy. People are lovely and nice. There is no tension at the back of your neck, which I experienced for many years, and suddenly it just disappeared. Coming from a very tense place like the Middle East. So that was basically it. I just loved Melbourne from day one, yeah. And a few years after, I met my partner, and one thing led to another, and you basically stay. You finish uni, you start a job, yeah. So yeah, my first job I was even sponsored. I was from a student visa to a working visa, and then to a partner visa. And after that, it's just the clock ticking, and you become a citizen one day. Yeah.
You've got another really exciting project at the moment. You've been sharing a lot on socials about it, Luminism. That beautiful artwork. Tell us about it.
So Luminism, it's a term that was coined by art historians to describe a 19th century group of artists from the States that depicted sceneries of seascape and with with a specific attention to the light, yeah, the way the light play. And I basically borrowed that term, yeah, because I depict seascape and I play with light, but in a completely different way. It's not paintings, it's photographs, and it's not it's not paint, but it's LED lights basically. So that started in COVID. That started in COVID, yeah. And I remember living in St Kilda. I had 4 kilometers in the bay, 1 kilometer on the shore. So that was my 5 kilometer. Or something along those lines. So I ended up seeing the bay daily, yeah, and photographing it daily, and noticing the play of life, the light, and of the time of the day and the seasons, and it's just, and you can't beat Mother Nature. She knows it best, and she does it best. But it was a lot of inspiration, and I ended up with hundreds and hundreds of horizon photos. Horizon is my quiet place. Is the place of calm. Is the place of serenity. Is the place of leveling myself. When I lose it, that's where I find my quiet, and what levels me basically. So I looking at all those photos and how the color changes, and I started to work. Okay, what if I'm gonna do this and do that and backlit, and basically I just took all my knowledge into that and just started to play with different things. Wisdom of object, as you said before, one of the Melbourne Design Week exhibition that I participated in. I launched it there, so I took a photo and basically backlit it in some way, and it was very basic. Yeah, it was just printed on fabric, stretched over aluminium frame, very basic. That specific Melbourne Design Week was a very unique one because it was done in people's homes. They let people do it in their homes. So a friend of mine opened her living room, basically, and it has to be by appointment, but still. And that was where I exhibited it. And I remember we opened the doors at 12 o'clock. At 12:30, Charles Justin from the Justin Art House Museum walked in and saw the piece that I made. He immediately said, "Is that for sale?" I said, "Oh, yeah," and bought it there and then. So I said, "Okay, if he bought it, it means something." Yeah. And he eventually, took it home. It was a prototype. It was pretty rough, but there was a huge potential there. So I ended up, taking it back, sitting down with myself, figuring it all out, redesigning the whole thing properly, and creating the series of the horizons, basically. I'm in horizon number 15 at the moment. Yeah. So that was number 1 that he purchased. But eventually he got a proper art piece. Yeah. So I always had, sorry.
Oh, no, I was just, when you say that the horizon is something that grounds you, I thought that was a really beautiful idea. There's this notion that we need those edges or those backbones or horizons, something to come to bounce off, to resist against.
It's interesting because I have a good friend of mine, George Angelovsky, a guy that I really admire and love as well. He's an artist, and we have a very meaningful conversation. And one day we were both sitting in front of a horizon and looking at it. And for me, it's a separation line. It separates. And he brought something else and said, "No, this is where things are meeting." And it's just terminology when you think about it, but it, it's the dramatic of using the word separation or meet.
Yeah, it's diametrically opposite.
Yeah, but it does the same thing when you think about it. So interesting, yeah, way to look at it. But
do you feel that you're happy to leave your work open for that interpretation?
Yes.
Or
I can jump in. I can write essays. I can,
do the notes on the wall.
Whatever I want. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's on the eye of the beholder. That's art. Yeah. So I can say whatever I want. Yeah. You're looking at it, you'll get it the way you'll get it. And I buy art. Yeah. I bought pieces through my life. And why do I buy them? I just fall in love with something there. Yeah. I just see something. And whether the artist meant it or not, does it really matter when it hangs on the wall in my home? I don't think so. I don't think so.
It's our personal choice, that almost that idea of it's service again. It's
Yes.
hanging on your wall. You love it. It's your choice.
Correct. And there's a love thing here. And I use that a lot in my work as well. When people come to the studio, I always tell them, if you don't love it, don't buy it. Yeah. Like is not good enough. Yeah. You'll see it every day. You need to, yeah. You can't avoid it. It's there. So you have to love it.
And if you love it, that it's worth it. The investment is worth it.
Of course.
And the value.
Object of desire, emotional design, you can just name it. There's many, many topics you can talk about specifically why we do those things, why we buy, why we put those things that, we love around us. Yeah. Why we beautify our spaces, ourselves or whatnot. Yeah.
I'm always really interested in environmental psychology and just that importance of good architecture, good design, and light and effect that also becomes part of that spatial experience, part of that good design, how it impacts our lives. How do you think about that in your work?
I'm going to become very philosophical here because, it's you touch so many things. Yes, architecture and light, yes. But usually when you talk about architecture and light, you talk about natural light, not artificial, which is an element in architecture as much as concrete. Yeah. But when you're talking about architecture specific and how and the aspect of the social aspect of it or good design, so even what is good design and what is good architecture, yeah, where do you draw a line? What's good and bad? And because there's elements of aesthetics here which are personal. There's usability. Which that okay, we can judge on that. Yeah, there's materiality, longevity. Yeah, how does it contribute to streetscape, etc., etc. So there's so many things to consider when you talk about it or ask those questions. So yeah, if you want to narrow it down a bit or be more specific, I can probably address it better.
I'll read the question that we've just had come in by text. It's Jody from Ocean Grove. They ask, how do you balance functionality and creativity in your lighting designs?
Okay. So, yes, as we said, I educated in a Bauhaus school in a Bauhaus city. So it's not a cliche. Form follows function. Yep. And I remember it was a weird thing that one of my most beloved teachers told us about creating a floor plan. And he said, if the floor plan is beautiful, the building will be beautiful. And I was like, well, how does that happen? Proportions, composition, if that's well balanced on the paper, on 2D, the 3D will be good too. Interesting. It's correct, by the way. I tried it. I tried it.
It's quite controversial.
Yeah, but
my course taught me to design in section.
In section, which is crucial. But you have to design in section and plan all the time. It's back and forth. You can't design only in section or without the plan. You just can't. And I know it because I still design in both ways. Yeah. Oh, now we do everything in 3D, but same time. Yeah, no, but I agree with you. A section is crucial as much as a floor plan. Yeah, a section won't necessarily give you proportions of space in the X and Y. It will give you the Z maybe, or the Z and Y, but not the X. I forgot what we were talking about.
Our texter inquired about
Yes.
balancing functionality and creativity, and I'm interested because you also go through such a manufacturing process, fabrication. How does that work in your practice for you?
Okay, so let's differentiate between whether it's part of my own design, my own collection, my own aesthetics, to a project aesthetic or a brief that comes in. Yeah, and in general, the stricter the briefs are, the more requirements you have, the more creative you become, because you have to come up with solutions for that. That was always the solution. Yeah. The more vague it is, the more lost you are. Yeah.
You can always tell when architects do museums. First, they have a career with the really rigorous briefs, and then they get commissioned for this open-ended museum,
Yeah.
and it could be a...
Yeah. So you look, I always look at things, try to look at things as in the most holistic way I can do. Yeah, think about it from various aspects, and that's usually dictates the design. Yeah, it can come. You can have an inspiration. Something inspires you that you basically draws from there to design an object, whatever it is. And eventually, okay, so you need to use it some way. You need to install it in some way. You need to service it in some way. Those things dictates the design, yeah, and the design eventually dictates the aesthetics of it as well, yeah. You can always add frills and whatnot, things that don't necessarily add to the function, but just to the look of it, yeah, which I do all the time. But that becomes a personal preference. But when it comes to a project that a client brings in with their brief to design something that's got nothing to do with my aesthetics, yeah, and I'm trying in most cases I won't go there, so I won't even discuss it because it's again none of my business. That's what they like. That's fine. I can think it's ugly, but it's fine. It doesn't matter what I think. Yeah, I just need to make sure that this will happen. This, whatever they want will happen. Basically, I can build it. I can make it. Yeah.
That's really not common. I want to very much actually pick up on that point that you're connecting to that core idea in your training that it's a service and you're delivering that design outcome. You're delivering that piece for the brief.
Yes. Yeah.
Could have been a really big house, but it's a...
I did say it's controversial. I did say. I did say that, and there you go. You're coming around with it. You agree with me.
I can see how some may find it controversial, but and at the same time you have your collection and you have the artworks that you make. So in fact, the pure creative expression for you is demonstrated in parallel. So you're able to bring humility and a service to the brief.
But both are creative in different ways. One is technical, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a technical creativity to resolve issues of manufacturing, of the making of, yeah. And the other is aesthetic, which is a different type of creativity, yeah, maybe more artistic. But as of, ever since I started with the Luminism series, that's a completely different story. And in some way, it's a bit of closing a circle almost, because I started with light and color when I was studying my master's. Yeah, I remember when I did the plan, I gave it a semester. Yeah, I gave light and color a semester. I ended up doing it 3 semesters because it's a magnificent, mind-blowing subject. That was 2005-6 back then. Yeah, 20 years after, it's pretty amazing what we know nowadays about light and color. Yeah, and the way we understand it. So the Luminism series basically gives me an outlet for a different type of creativity altogether, which is completely more artistic. And unlike design and object and what I do the day to day, which is usability, the artistic side of things, there is no usability to it apart from, well, emotional usability, if you want to look at it this way. Yes, they're illuminating object, but I don't think you're going to light that piece of art next to your dining to enjoy your dinner party with. Yeah, you probably need another type of light there. It's more of a mood light. It's more of a but again, it touches different aspects of what we love or what we need or in our lives.
So many.
And creating.
Sorry. Please go on.
No, just creating the artwork and playing with light and color. Just again. Brought me a full circle to what I've done in uni and loved it so much, and being able to practice that and put that into what I do daily, even though it's just art, but it is the art side of things. I love it. Every time we make a piece, we hang it in the studio, and it's usually we leave it there for almost a week to run, just to make sure before we send it to the client. And you should just see the reactions, like, even though, okay, I've seen it before, or I've been working on it for some, but still, you put it on the wall, turn it on, and, oh my God, this is beautiful. Do you know what? That's beautiful. And the whole staff just walk past, oh, that's really nice. I love this one. So they're emotional pieces. They're very emotional pieces. And I took those I think one of the essence of the Horizons seascape, and managed to bring it into people's life through these artworks, by creating those beautiful fields of color. And there is something, the moment it's on and the fields of colors, they're interactive and they're in constant motion and they change. It's invigorating, it's relaxing, it's just beautiful, really. It's one of the things that it's almost impossible to document properly, to photograph it properly, or LEDs tend to flicker or in times, and it's hard to explain it. So when I approached galleries, when you show them photos, they don't really get it. I was lucky enough that specifically one gallery were able to send someone to the studio, and the moment she saw it, not done, we're getting it.
Real art that you have to experience.
Yes, specifically this one, specifically light art. Again, it doesn't translate in any type of photography or videography the same way it's in real life. I think that one of the reasons is that nowadays we know that color penetrates our skin, get into our bloodstream, and affects us physiologically as much as it affects us psychologically or emotionally. Yeah? So, and probably that's the reason. When you see the light, you get it. Yeah.
So many lessons, I think, also from our conversation for architects when considering their practice and what it is they do, who it is they work for. How do you curate your own journey in your practice? And I'm always really interested in these experiences. Why we begin with the early moments and how it comes full circle. So thank you so much for sharing that and taking us on that journey of the light and the color. And could you have predicted it, that you would be doing light art?
Never.
When you were so...
Never. I was doing architecture, and I had a practice, and it got to a point when I did a few restaurants, and the last restaurant I've done before I closed the business was an interesting one because they were just fantastic clients, and it's all about the relationship you have with your clients and the chemistry. It's crucial. Yeah. And it worked with these guys. They were a group, and despite the feng shui, and they loved everything that I brought. Yeah, to the point that they eventually asked me to design the logo, to design the menu, not the menu, but to design basically everything. So total design. Again, that was
just training. That was your foundation.
That was early 2000. Yeah. Back then, not many people talked about experiential design, but now it's one of the hottest topics. Anywhere from hospitality to holiday destinations, or to brands, So I was lucky to be able to touch so many things, and that was the first time I had to design a light, and I've just completely fell in love with that medium. So. And I remember asking myself, why that? You've done a chair, you've done a table, you've done a bar. Why this? And I realized it's a very simple answer. It's the only object that you can bring to life by a flick of a button.
Wow.
So there's two modes of existence. There's the on and the off. And it's still an object, it's still in the space, it still occupies a space, it's still there, but it's, it looks like that now. Flick the button, it's another story. And it can be a very exciting story. Depends what it is. And for me, light is exciting. And what it can do, and how it can play, and what is the object, and what does it do to the interior. To the point that, I said, okay, I want to take that and I want to spend the next 2-3 years of my life in studying this subject and understanding it better. And that was my master's. It was about interactive lighting in the built environment, basically. Yeah. And with, the behavioral aspects to it, the psychological aspects to it, and how do we grasp a space, understand the space. Yeah. If there's no light, there's no space. If there's no light, there's nothing. So it was just fascinating to just delve into it and being able to just stop everything, take a break, and just study. And I enjoyed it very much. And one of the pieces that I've designed, part of my master's, was I think I did 3 pieces. One of them was the aura. Which eventually is now part of the NGV permanent collection, which is interesting. Yeah.
Amazing journey, amazing story.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing it with us tonight.
My pleasure.
I am mindful of the time. I want to ask my last question, and that's, what gives you hope?
What gives me hope? Light. Light and color. What gives me hope? I think just being able to express myself in that way or another, and seeing how people react to what I do. Yeah, the enjoyment that they find in it. That's for me. It's hopeful. Yeah, it's hopeful for who I am and what I do.
As that light comes to life, you get that reaction.
It's exactly that. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me on the program, Ilan.
Thanks for joining me for another evening of radio architecture with Ilana Razbash. This live show was broadcast and recorded in the Radio Karim studio on Bunurong Country. You can replay the show wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in and supporting community radio. Take care.
Hey, it's Sam from the Smith & Weston Jury, and you're listening to Radio Karim.